I'd like to call both of your attention to the fact that that recording button is on. Okay. This is Conscious Conversation Central. And I'm saying that because the last one, for some reason, I can't find the recording for. So that's wild. Anyway, it is still Friday. For some reason, I wanted to say December. Now, what's that about? I know this is not December. For crap's sake, we're hot up in here. It's May 4th, 2018, and I want to say December, so that's weird. Anyway, we're going to play with As Above, So Below, and what that makes us each individually think of when we feel into. And Lisa, you said something very interesting.
Yeah, I said within as without.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, which I personally feel the same way whenever I think of as above, so below, as within, so without is kind of the same. For me, I've always thought of them as kind of the same coin, sort of.
Yeah, and I'm starting to hold within as above. Does that make sense? Because I don't see above and below. I see it as within and without.
Okay, well, so let's start with then, if you can both give a short, brief feel of what. So, Sheila, you used the term the same coin. So what's the coin? What does it look like? Because I'm feeling that there's 3 different coins or more right here on the table that are, from one perspective, the same coin. From another perspective, whoa, I didn't see the other 52 million angles of that coin.
Okay, well, I guess for me, the reason I'm in my present state of expansion, and I'm gonna phrase it like that.
I like that. Yeah.
In this most recent state that I am holding, I feel, and I am noticing that everything starts in here anyway, and everything that I'm seeing out in the field, any field, the field, my field, whatever, call it whatever you like, everywhere I look is I don't know, it's like I know it's coming from within me. And so it's almost like they're all valid perspectives. They're different levels of perspectives. And for me, it feels like the most expansive level of that in my current state of being is the as within, so without, because that is everything. The within seems to be everything in this moment of now for me. And I have been noticing the metaphors everywhere, just everywhere, everywhere. And it depends on what level of me that I'm examining, or what I'm experiencing in my field at that moment, as to what level of, whether it's above, below, in, out, over there, in the corner, or,
around the block.
Yes. Well, I feel like this will play into what we're speaking hereof. It was an experience, but it was a very it was a very visceral experience that I could feel in physicality, in the presence of another, a very good friend of mine whom I've known for over 20 years. I experienced resonance with this person, like the three of us have experienced. But we were in each other's physical presence. And this person's never felt anything like this before. And I could very clearly feel her, and I could feel her feeling me, and the resonance and what was the connection and what was taking place. And it was quite thrilling for both her and myself. And then what made it that much more thrilling for me was that it was an energetic envelope that we had basically begun to project outwards, because all of a sudden I could feel the folks at the table behind us. We were in a restaurant, kind of straining to hear and feel into what was going on at our table, and some folks on the other side. At least the little baby was terribly interested in what was going on at the table.
Of course.
And but all at once, the waitress came up to check on us, and then she said, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but I just want to jump in the conversation. It feels so good over here. And my friend's face she was so surprised, because she'd never felt that, and she wasn't quite sure what was happening. But when that happened, I explained about the energetic envelope. And so I feel very strongly that I was feeling something, and I was hoping to create an energetic envelope of some sort. And so, I don't know, for me, that was a as within, because I was feeling it, and it came without. And then it was like that circuit completing that, that Lisa shared with me about, issuing an invitation and whether someone's going to play. So now because of that experience, that's kind of what it just feels like. Almost everything I look at, everything everywhere seems like it's, well, Karma's talked about, that we're playing in these mirror games, so to speak, out here, that's what she calls what we're doing out in this field. So that seems to lend some to that all of this comes from within. If all of this is experience and I'm creating it, then it comes from somewhere,
right.
And it would be within. So I'm with Lisa that they seem, for me, I've always felt they were interchangeable, or I've held them in the same manner. In other words, not that I don't look at them as something different. They represent the same things for me.
Different levels of expansion within the same thing.
Right. The as above, so below, as within, so without. I feel like it's kind of the same thing. It's how you're looking at it, I guess.
Yeah. So at lunch, were you at lunch? Was that what it was?
Right.
Okay. So how many eyes were at lunch?
Well,
at least for the two of you.
Well, again, it depends on how you're going to look at it, because the most expansive view is that there was one.
Right. Well, what you can pull in the in and out and the above and below with the higher selves and
yes,
the souls, right? So as above, so below, within, without.
Yep.
They're connected.
That's why I said it depends on how you're
to each other.
Wouldn't
so
that
we can
be
do
correct?
it. Yeah, the whole toroidal field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's how it's all in how you're. Okay, for me, it's how I've decided to hold it in that moment.
In that moment.
Because I could choose to acknowledge and feel multiple eyes in that moment if I chose, but I could also use that most expansive level and just say there's only one.
Right. And
yeah.
Just a side note, kind of programming note before, because I want to hear Lisa to put her coin on the table and play with it a little bit more. But that's another way to look at the multidimensionality of it, because you've got the as above, so below. You've got the within, without. You have all the different eyes, and in that moment, so the energetic envelope. Another way to hold it is that's a reality that you've created. And as you were there in that reality was a fully sustainable, expansive, congruent, there was coherence in that reality of you and all those other people within that place. And then you left and you went on, and so you left that reality and went to another. And that's what we've been doing all the time, but now we're actually intentionally doing it, even if we may not cognize it that way. And we can do the multidimensionality way in multiple dimensions, multiple multimedia, multiple congruencies at the same time, and just flow from reality to reality to reality. And that's where the kind of the jump out of the linear time thing, because you don't go back there unless it serves an expansive value for you or the the other key components within that. Otherwise, it's just gone. I mean, it's never gone in the sense that it's always there. But you won't go back to it unless you come and intersect and meet to expand yet again from that reality. So when people say, well, I long to, or it doesn't seem the same, because you keep expanding, and the level at which, the rate at which, the speed at which you go above and below, in and out, is morphing, jumping, leaping, up-leveling, however you want to hold it, all at the same time, exponentially in quantum leaps all the time. So each jump is actually another jump beyond another dimension, beyond another fractal of expansiveness. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
So you can't actually pull back that lunch, that whatever, because each of you, just taking you, the two main beings within that energetic envelope that you opened, and the time, the reality that you created in that moment, right? Because each of you has shifted dramatically, expanded exponentially from that moment.
Yes.
So in essence, another way, in case people's heads weren't hurting already, just to add a little bit more spice to that, those beings do not exist in the way that they did before.
No, that's right.
And okay, so we'll make the head expand a little bit more. And neither does any other being in all of Source's multiverse exists that same way. Because remember, it's the singularity, the singular, right? The sovereign, which is the whole. And as one changes, all changes. Because it's a toroidal field. It's not a linear. So it changes. I mean, that's a really good way, as above, so below, within, without, to realize it's kind of like the inhale, exhale, and the when you think of growth, there's the expansion and then the pause, and then the expansion and then the pause. Yeah. And so it keeps...
It's how nature is. It's what nature does.
Right. It's the Fibonacci. Well, it's kind of the Fibonacci sequence, the golden mean in motion, in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all so beautiful.
So what is your coin? Just we're using that was a placeholder from what Sheila started us off with, please.
The coin.
They're same. She had said same sides of the coin. So.
Yeah, I was saying that as above, so below, and as within, so without. For me, is actually the same coin. It's the same thing. I view it as just interchangeable wording.
Yeah, I guess I just see it as a placeholder, a perspective, because I was seeing it as above and below for a really long time. But for me to move it from somewhere out here or somewhere down there to somewhere in here or out there is helping me to really own my creator beingness, where I realize I am all, I am everything, and it is all happening within me. Not out there. Out there is what I have chosen for this little fractal piece to focus on and expand or project, or however you want to hold it, that the infinite is within and the finite is without. So the inside is the all that is helping me to see it from the perspective of really truly owning it and using my focus then to create what I wish to. And then to do, like what you were saying, create little worlds sort of wherever I go and really owning that. And I was thinking too, when you guys were talking about the restaurant, not only did these two beautiful beings change and shift during the process of that meal, but I can see where the server was activated and the room itself changed completely, the walls, the booth, all of it. Everything changed completely because of what happened there. And I'm trying to think of that in terms of that is what I do. That wasn't a unique experience. It's who I am and it's what I do. So I want to do that in a conscious way. And I'm like trying to make sure that I am focusing on creating the thing that I wish to experience and changing the world in the ways that I wish for the world to change, and enjoying and savoring each and every one of those envelopes instead of holding one. Like I used to also think that everything was outside of me and it was this thing out there to get, and then once I got over there, then everything, and I'm really living and everything will be wonderful, except for I get there and there I am still thinking that if I could just so that was just so now I'm really trying to enjoy every moment of my knowing first off that I'm a creator, really holding that perspective from a moment to moment concentration, and it's not as easy as one might think. And then to know that as I walk through the world, I'm changing it, and then just be satisfied with the changes that I'm making. And if I'm not, then that's where my focus needs to be.
Right. Yeah.
Which is really, really easy, and it's really fun too.
Yeah. And you had said, out there. Well, there is no out there until you, since you are the genesis, pop it into physicality to put it out there.
Through my focus and attention.
That's right.
What in me am I focusing?
Right. To then play with, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about as above and so below, so let's take this coin, we're going to spin it around a little.
All right.
Roll it down the table.
Okay.
So as above, so below. And within, without, So is that just involving Lisa and Sheila and Beezy and Keegan and other individual beings? Or what's involved? What's encapsulated in that, do you think?
For me, everything.
So,
all beings.
All beings. Just all beings?
Oh, no. Well, all that is, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. All pure potential. There's nothing that I am not. I'm not sure if what's the question again?
What? Everything. Well, one of the ways when we play with these things, oftentimes we can go, it seems kind of incongruent, but we can go for the big picture, like, oh yeah, as above, so below, and we get the feeling of that, right? Or the within, without. And we may somehow hold it just for, because we're thinking about ourselves, doing that, right?
Right.
And you said it, so then you took it to put a broad expanse on it, right? Well, everything, all creation, okay.
Sure.
So it's funny, people can think in the big terms, right? But then when you then pull some of those pieces out and you think about systems and structures and kind of concepts, they're in that as well. So the justice system, we'll say, right? Or the trafficking system, we'll say. Or the banking system, we could say. So there's lots of different, there's lots of different things that aren't beings, although they are a structure. So they actually are a coherent, energetic.
Well, they're entities, if you will, because we're supporting them and feeding them and keeping they are entities. Let's be clear.
Right. Yeah. So just to, but they also fit in as above, so below. Within, without. So they're not just here on this blue planet in this particular thing. They're actually, universal. So this is the time when people can start to, it's really important to and helpful to understand where we are when you take the as above, so below, which is an oft-heard phrase, especially in, in the spiritual realms and stuff like that, thinking, well, people hold it in lots of different ways, but sometimes.
Like the macro and the micro.
Yeah, or the God and down here and, kind of in different realms and stuff. But it's, but as above, so below, you can flip it because since they're the same, then it's as below as above. So on this planet, out there. So all of those different things are, and as you said, everything, unlimited possibilities. But again, when we play with unlimited, the phrasing of unlimited possibilities, okay, that's unlimited possibilities. But then if we start to pluck some of them, and the reason I bring this up is because this is the time where, well, first of all, it's fun to play with, to get out and to realize that it's, you're all in here and you're all this way. And as you have the inhale breath and the exhale breath, that's creation, which is, we can start small and get bigger, and we wouldn't touch all of it within, 52 million moments.
Yes.
But
we could try.
Right. We're bringing this all together right this moment because in order to whole it, in order to integrate it, in order to have the fully polarized activation of the service to others, and that the quintessential moment where those energetics crystallize into the crystalline, and the as you go up to the plasma, the whole experience where you're marrying or merging or reunifying the sacred masculine and the divine feminine, the two halves of your corpus callosum, all those different things, North Korea, South Korea, pick one, pick all. That it's helpful to see all that. So it's not just, and the same thing you could do that, because again, we were talking about not just beings, but structures. So you might have a light worker structure and a truther community structure, maybe the Q follower structure, and the, all those different things. They're kind of structures in themselves. They're a thought form and a whole flow of energy and a frequency neighborhood.
Yes.
But they actually all are part of the whole of the moving those structures forward, of up-leveling all of that.
Let's up-level everything. I'm so ready for this.
Well, when Lisa, when you were talking about the that it helps you to hold it as within, so as within, so without. I think maybe that might be why I have felt that as well, and I'm sure, and I'd be interested to know how many others that will be viewing this may or may not, where they might stand on something like this, because for me, as I have really absorbed the fact that I am a creator being,
mm-hmm.
and that is a fact, whether I myself direct my focus and attention, because make no mistake, that's how we create. So, them's the choices. I can either take the self-responsibility, which is why I think I might have looked at it as within, because then you see there's a bit of responsibility involved if it's coming from within me rather than from somewhere above, which feels, again, it's all in how you
slightly disconnected.
Right. That feels out there somewhere, as above and so below feels a bit disconnected for me. I think that might be why I felt like they were interchangeable, but it was an easier, more personalized, perhaps, way for me to look at all of it. And it also made it, in holding it that way, sort of denotes a sense of self-responsibility for me, as opposed to above and below. You see what I mean? That's somebody else's domain, above and below. That's somewhere else. But in here, oh no, that's all me. So
you just said something very funny. Well, it struck me as very funny. So, in a cosmic humor way. So, but within here, that's all me. Yeah, because you're imploding into all you in here. And at the same time before, it was kind of up there, because where were you? Part of you was up there. And
up there, yeah.
So that's one of the reasons there's that strong shift to feeling it's like this, because you went like this, or you're in the process of going like this, right? And
right.
So you are all right in there. So when you think about from within and without, so then how do you each, when you're feeling with that, how do you each then what does it feel like, or what comes in when you then look at, say, the whole financial money construct, because of, well, that's within, without.
Yeah, it is. And to me, it is one of those, okay, remember at the courthouse, I had the doubt monster that I projected and followed me down the street. And thank you, by the way, PZ, that was very insightful that you helped me to see that really quite fully, because that was really beautiful. That is what I see this system as. It was a focus of many things that created this system that's out there. And so for me, it only has, that's the finite, right? That's because I am the infinite. So right away, this really isn't something I need to be afraid of when I understand what it is. So instead, what I'm choosing to do is send love to it, because that's who I am, and I'm eternal, and that's what's the only thing that's going to keep being eternal. So I'm just going to keep being that and emanating that and sending that at anything that I'm not particularly proud of or fond of, you know. And I'm this moment of now being shown lots of those kind of particular things at the moment. They're just rising to the surface, so that they're just kind of bopping up in front of me. Parts of me that I'm not particularly proud of. And so I'm just deciding to not have monsters chasing me down the street, but to face it and embrace it and know that it is all a part of me, and then find something else I'd rather focus on and expand and project out into my future. And so that way, even though they might still be here, these systems and all of that, they're certainly in the stages of crumbling and disintegration. Because I'm not the only one who has no longer, who's made the decision to stop feeding the system, and that is by having the fear and the thoughts that create it. And so for me, it's like it's already gone, because it doesn't have an effect on me. And so that's,
well, it's integrated. It's the difference between, you can look at the financial system or the banking system as, as an emotion that's got you by the short hairs, right? And it's tangling you up and, churning you around. And instead of saying, no, I'm not supposed to look at that. I'm not, that's somehow.
I'm supposed to feel good.
Right, I'm supposed to feel good. Well, no, the whole idea is just not really wallow in it or spin around it, but just integrate it, notice it, look at it, and go through it. And that's what you talked about, where, you're not giving power to it anymore. I'm infinite, and it's just that static piece. So, right? So all of that is integration. And as above, so below, within, without, we need to integrate all of that, because we are all of that.
Yeah.
And we're in a sense, and with that integration, dematerializing all that is not of love, because we've talked about this with the river of love, and letting all, and it's all dematerializing, it's all dissolving, it's all going back to pure energy, which then we can, through our own, self-genesis, create new things out of, because energy never disappears. But if we pull it down, or pull it in, or pull it out, or rise it up, however you want to, look at the same thing, in the specifics of it. So kind of breaking it down and teasing it out, because oftentimes it's just the being that is looked at this way, instead of all of the structures as well. Well, how do you think those structures got there?
The creator beings. Furthermore,
Well, and we're all complicit in, and all creators in.
And we can,
and that's another, as above, so below. That's another side of the in-breath, the out-breath. Complicit in, creators in, right? So,
Yep.
I think so many times. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, based on some of my experiences over the last, week and a half or so, and specific, that one that I think I had last week, where I was integrating, whether it be a memory from this incarnation. Personally, I think it was something from somewhere else, something else, but as more of these kinds of things are happening that come up to be expressed, expelled, whatever, and integrated, dealt with in whatever fashion. There's, I feel, that's not always pleasant, by the way, integrating some of that. And I'm bringing that up specifically because of what you said about the fact that we are all complicit.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact that if I had that experience, I'm not the only one. And that means there's going to be lots of other folks out here that are going to have experience they can't explain. And it's going to be unsettling, but it will, I can tell you this, it helped me really. I mean, I knew it on one level of my being. I knew that we were all complicit. I've said it before. And, that was a concept really that I just felt was true, but I had no visceral emotional experience with that. And now I do. And I feel like there will be more of us out here. I'm sure, might not be the last time I experienced that either. But yeah, so there's as we do that integrating and that and all of that, some of the as without or the as below that's going to be integrated may come as a shock and a surprise to some of us. It was shocking in the moment and very surprising and confusing and that sort of thing. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that. And it seems very appropriate to bring that up for this conversation because obviously it was mine or I wouldn't have had it.
Right.
One.
Well,
and as I am all that is, it doesn't matter because it's all mine anyway.
Right.
But that visceral experience was not something I had in this incarnation.
Well, and you mentioned, I'm sure other people will have at least one. Well, unless you've remembered them all already and you've integrated them all already, you're going to have a lot more than one. Because, so that's one part I want to just highlight a little. And the other thing is, so go back and read, and I'm actually going to do a whole thing on all the various prosopes and see if we can get you all to connect all the dots on those. But if you go back to 13818, right, which was on December 21st, 2017, and you look at all the pieces in that, read that again. You can read the letter of the president to the Congress, which is kind of the executive summary of it. And then you can actually go ahead and read the precipice, and all that's on the IAB. But then look at this conversation that we're having here, within, without, above and below, and hold the precipice. Hold the EO in that same way.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, and look at it as above, so below. So you talked about complicit. Well, also there's a couple, many paragraphs in the EO that talk about indirectly, directly, and complicit. So as above, so below, within, without. So this is how we do all of these different pieces, and we can do them intentionally, or we can get blindsided when we integrate and all of these things are imploding back to all these different selves, all these different timelines, all these different iterations, incarnations, however, there's lots of different ways to hold the quantumness, which is this way, and the multidimensionality, which is that way. And then you've got the lineage way, which is more triangular, so since you're the toroidal. But all of that is it's coming to the surface, it's coming to fruition, it's coming to reconciliation, reunification, reconnecting, and a holding of it, because it's all coming back together. And what that does is cleans it all up, integrates it all, takes the charge off of all of it, and lets each then experience again for the first time that it's just an experience. It's just a point of expansion. It's just a way to really explore frequencies that take certain shapes and dynamics and all of that. And because we are creator beings, they are all in a very rich, complex, diverse, in-depth, intricate way, whether that may be from a linear perspective labeled as good or bad, ugly, bliss, whatever it is. It's all of that, because we're all of that, because that's what creator beings do. And each of that makes the expansion. And, think of anything, I know that, I know personally that I've had conversations with people, get in touch. A lot of people have trouble with this. And I can hear right now a lot of people having trouble with it, and that it seems incongruous to us. Well, I'm not like that, or I wouldn't do that, or whatever it is. But you're only the I that's saying that. Oftentimes is the little I. Oftentimes is the lower mind I. And not an I that has a full peripheral perspective, perception, field of view of the whole field of view. And when we push it off or parse it out that way as it's something separate, it actually hangs there, kind of like, a thorn in the side, which then gets embedded, which then kind of festers, which then kind of brings more of that energy up because it's trying to get our attention. So we're actually recreating other things out there that will highlight that until we actually look at the totality of that one little bit and then can integrate it in. So it's actually, the way I hold it, a very fun, very expansive, very rich and delicious concept, the as above, so below, the in without, because it really is a way to pull, it's kind of like a magic thread that when we pull it, simultaneously it unravels, you pull that thread and it unravels the tapestry of everything so that it can be seen. You can see it all kind of falling down or revealing. And at the same time, almost like you're pulling because you're all and you're kind of in a toroidal field, at the same time, you're pulling a thread from the opposite direction, which is pulling it and popping up the whole new thing, the wholeness of who you are and the unlimitedness of who you are, to see that you're all of that, because it's just energy. It's just different ways to configure that. Does that kind of paint a good picture?
Well, yes. Yeah, for me it did. I mean, for some reason I'm still holding it in the same way I did before, but maybe that's because of the way I hold it. It feels the same, in other words, to me. What you just said still feels the same as for me as the way I've been holding it for myself. So I have to think about that a little bit.
Okay.
Lisa's so funny. I can always tell when she's like, sometimes I can almost feel the pat on my head. Okay.
No.
No, yeah, I just have to think about that one a little bit.
So were you saying, when it feels same, that the feeling that you hold it, because it was within, without, you that withinness, which is everything, is already to a point that an expansion that holds all of those perspectives?
That's what I'm saying. I know that on an intrinsic level. I just know that. There are portions of me that I feel are catching up with that. If I don't know. In other words, I can hold it.
Well, sure.
And I can see where I don't hold it. Does that?
Yeah, that's cool.
A lot of times.
That's what I just said. See, I feel it the same way you just said it.
Okay, so that's what I was saying. I wanted to make, I guess I had to say it in my own words to make sure I was getting it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yay. Hey. I'm not really the slow kid in the back. Hey.
And some people are going, what?
There's going to be folks that do that on every one of our videos, okay? There's always going to be somebody like, okay, what the hell?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I have I have always gotten in trouble for being too happy. So that's a thing. Yeah. I have, my stepmother used to tell me to stop all that laughing. Life is not that funny. Which of course would send me into hysteria. Because yes, it was. But and then people at the Jehovah's Witnesses accused us of being on drugs and turn us into the elders and have a conversation to find out what we were messing with, because there's no way we were that damn happy all the time.
Sinners just aren't that happy. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
let me just say that I live with Lisa, and I have wet my pants on more than one occasion.
Now that is not my fault.
Oh.
I don't care what she says.
It is.
No.
I could be standing around being just minding my own business, and she says something, and it's just forget it. Yes,
I like to laugh.
She's quite hysterical. So yes, it just struck me so funny.
Did you know that in the higher dimensions, that especially in the closest one to where we're all, well, we've actually just integrated the fifth strand of DNA, which is the fifth dimensional strand. So, but that frequency of laughter is the playground. That's the playground.
No, I believe that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a stand up there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good because we'll fit right in.
And that's the other thing that's really helped aside from playing with all of these things. But some of this stuff is really hard. Okay, a lot of this stuff is really hard.
Yeah, thank you.
And some of this stuff, it's uncomfortable, it's challenging, okay, well, I'm painting a general picture. But anyway, so, and having the laughter and stuff will really help you. And just as an aside, in the room yesterday, we're working on in support with this different docs and everything that's coming out. Some of them you'll see them soon on the IV. But I was chuckling at some of the different things. One was the one I'd already put up about how they had kind of their answer in document 172 was the answer to Randy's 171, saying this is kind of bogus. And 172 was just filed, but it's dated April 4th, I think it is. And so I said, I laughed and I wrote something that said, well, I guess since we're on the indigent clause for getting the transcripts and stuff, they figure we can't read either.
Yeah.
And then I went on to, because I thought that was pretty humorous, and I said, well, I've done some of my best work when I've been indigent. I morphed the OPPT-in.com site to the IUV.com site, all in when the state of Washington had me classified as indigent. So, we do our best work that way.
Right.
But those are all just experiences, and as we need. That's not right. That's kind of a linear placeholder, but well, I'm not sure of any other way. We can't get to that fully expansive state. We can't get to physical body ascension. We can't get to fifth dimensional fully activated DNA if we don't integrate all of this. If we don't, because as we integrate it, lets us see. It opens our field of vision, our field of perception, our field of frequency navigation to all that's beyond what we currently might, kind of have a tunnel vision around. So I'll just say the linear placeholder would be if we don't walk through that, move through that, flow through all of that, we can't get there.
Right. Yeah.
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 So just, I don't know. It seems for me to be getting a little easier. I know they're with each one of these, whatever activations that are taking place for me personally, I can feel the expansion.
And they're coming fast and furious now.
Yeah.
We can't keep up.
Yeah, that's true.
They're still slow.
Oh no. Woohoo!
But they are speeding up.
Say that again?
I said, but they are speeding up.
Yeah.
Well, they do feel like they're speeding up, that's for certain. I mean, it doesn't feel like it takes nearly as long to integrate something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So that's good.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I had on this particular subject. Either one of you have anything else you'd like to add to this one?
Not in this moment, but there's more to come, so we can play with it
Oh,
a
okay.
different perspective later.
Awesome. Lisa?
I mean, there's always more to come. So,
well, yes, and they're
And
all
I'm
tied
looking
together.
forward to more to come.
Yeah, me too. Well, absolutely.
Bring it on.
Well, and I want to invite everyone else too to, get involved with this one too. I mean, let's hear what you have to, what do you feel about this particular one, Let us know. Let's hear from you. So everybody's information will be in the body of this video as per usual. You'll be able to find the IUV and Lisa's 2 blogs and how to get in touch with me. And till next time.